All right, guys, a pleasure to have you both. We've got the founders, both the founders of 1000 Watt, Marc Davison, who I got the honor to speak with last year, and Brian Boero as well. And Brian, this is our first official meeting together.
It is. It is. I wish it were in person, but this is pretty cool. So thank you for having me.
Well, we will be in person soon. We're going to get to that in just a little bit. But when Marc and I got to spend over an hour together doing a podcast in late last year in 2022, it ended up being one of the best pieces of content for the entire year. Our belief at BAM is like one of the best pieces of content for the industry to share with. And the feedback, I know, Marc, I know you got a bunch of emails on what you shared, and I got a whole bunch of DMs, and it was just really hit with a lot of agents. And right now, I believe that there's like this decade old contagion in the industry where people just hold on to things for way too long. Agents and brokers, but certainly at the top, hold on to yesterday
Mm.
forever and really want to move backwards. I've been using the phrase a lot in 2023, lock in. And it's about locking into what's actually happening right now.
Yeah.
And I know you guys are using the phrase turn on for your event that's coming up, but what does turn on mean? I'm assuming, I'm not even going to make assumptions. I want you guys, and Brian, you can start, and then we'll kick it over to Marc. But what is this theme? What is this turn on theme all about?
What it really means, Byron, is to open yourself to what is new, what is different, what diverges from all of the things that have always been done, as you suggested, and turning on the lights in your brain and your heart and your soul to things that you normally maybe wouldn't consider being a resident of this big, wonderful industry. And I put myself into that category. So that's really what turn on means is just to open yourself and turn on the lights, as they say. And, I think it kind of ties very nicely to what you said, which is we are an industry that is characterized in many cases by inertia. And, we're saying, hey, look, put on the brakes, stop and look around for a couple days. That's the idea with the event.
And if you're unfamiliar with 1000 Watt, this is the premier branding agency in all of real estate. And so what you just said brings huge levels of credibility. You've worked with some of the biggest brands, if not all the biggest brands in the industry that I've seen for sure. Marc, why don't you dive in here, jump in, and tell us a little bit more about this theme, turn on.
Man, it's always hard to follow Brian because he nails it with such perfection that I really should just say what Brian said. Um, but like maybe what I can add is when we were first um, concepting our agency, we were thinking about names, and when we came up with 1000 Watt, Turn On became sort of the brand tagline, and it served the purpose of what Brian's talking about. We were trying to bring an outside real estate industry point of view, because we really had that. That's what we learned. That's what we studied. That's what we were looking at. I came from the outside the industry. I was at an ad agency, not in real estate. So Turn On was really to turn on to our company and what we're bringing to the industry. So Turn On ended up becoming a tagline for a bit, and then we took it off as the tagline, and then it kind of gets repurposed for different things, and it's perfectly appropriated for this event because it's exactly what Brian is saying.
Brian, when Marc, I don't know if you had the chance to consume any of the podcasts that Marc and I did together, but he literally twisted the minds of so many agents when he talked about personal branding. And, it got like, what the heck? He's hitting it from a different angle. But the conversation after, and even you can go find the podcast now, the conversation has been, wow, I'm thinking about it a different way. My creative juices are flowing more after hearing the way Marc describes his feelings around personal branding for agents, for team leaders, for brokers. Is that a lot of the way you think about this year, 2023? Are you and Marc in alignment on his thoughts around personal branding.
Oh yeah, for sure. You know, it's a wonderful example of what you started with, Byron, and I think it's really just on target. The notion of personal branding is but one example of the phenomenon where there's an idea that is advanced at some point by someone in the industry. Some people um, are successful with it, and then other people look to the people who are successful and then do what that successful person has done, and then all of a sudden, in a room of 100 people, 100 agents, 98 of them are doing the same thing. And what started out perhaps as a reasonably viable idea has turned into, this undifferentiated blah. And so, yeah, the notion of personal branding, and look, I can talk about this for hours and hours and hours, as Marc can, about everything that has gone wrong with that. That's an idea that started in the '80s, and we're still trying to untangle it today. And it's because in this business, and I understand it completely. There's a lot of looking around. You're looking around at what everybody else is doing when you should be sort of looking down and gazing at your navel and thinking about what you really need to be doing.
Marc, what's a practice that, somebody who's like hearing this right now and it's like, wow, I'm 10, 15 years, maybe I'm even just starting and I haven't really put my finger on how to look within because I've been looking outside for so long. And I'm having a hard time figuring out what the steps would be for me to actually do what Brian just said. Look within, look down, and actually create something that is me, but also bigger than me because it's a true brand identity.
Right. There's many ways to hit that question. I mean, it's the reason why we don't sort of give ourselves our own psychotherapy. It's very hard to do that introspective, deep digging and diving to find the core of whatever it is you're trying to build, because even at a simple level, when let's say we're working with a tech company and we're asking them, well, what is the best feature of your technology? They tell us everything is the best feature. And the more you start to layer on top of that feature set, the more diluted the messaging becomes. It's not easy. It's not easy to do it yourself. So like, it's always been hard to kind of teach how to do it, because you give somebody a little bit too much of that education, they then think they can do it themselves, and the result of that is not very good. And so, like, it does require outside help in getting it done. And I want to just add to what Brian said, because like we do a lot of talking about branding, but what we're really talking about is building business, and creating a business that is, and that's really what the end result is. If you get the branding right and nail that science, you have to sell less. You're attracting more business to you because of the brand, not because of the features of what you're selling or even the surface level benefits of it. This is all about getting your business right and creating more appointments, more closings, more transactions, more revenue.
What's the failed playbook right now that just keeps getting handed off from agent to agent to agent that is rampant in 23, Brian, that needs to be disrupted just from a mental standpoint to start creating your own plays, your own unique twist? Shanahan, like in the NFL, I know, Marc, you're not a big NFL guy, right?
NBA, not NFL.
NBA. Okay, so Brian, are you NFL analogy if I throw one out there?
Man, you're talking to the wrong guys, Byron. I haven't watched a football game since high school.
Well, there's a team in San Francisco this weekend. They're going to play a big game. They're the 49ers.
Yeah.
And
okay, good. I thought that. Yeah.
They've got this young coach, they're on their third quarterback in the NFC Championship game this weekend against the Eagles. So they're on this rookie quarterback. He was the last pick in the draft. He was the last pick in the 7th round. So they call him Mr. Irrelevant. But because the coach, Shanahan, younger outlook, he knows all the legacy plays that his dad created in this West Coast offense. Gino Blafari talks about his real estate West Coast offense all the time.
Yeah.
He's innovated on it in such a way that is allowing somebody with little experience at the quarterback position, and you could think of that as a team leader or a broker, being the quarterback running these plays, to excel through the playoffs here and be in the biggest game of their conference this weekend. So it's a new look on a playbook, a tried and true playbook that has always existed, but with all these new twists that really work and elevate the players on the team to a level that it would have taken them 5-10 years had they not been so innovative with their approach.
Yeah.
What's the playbook right now that keeps getting handed off from agent to agent that should be innovated on?
Well, okay. Thank you for translating this football analogy. Now I get it. So, okay, I'll give you an example.
This is called trend jacking, Brian, because the game's going on. I'm just trying to drop in some key words that we can, as we release this here.
You're light years ahead of me, Byron. So I'll give you an example. So, for years and years and years, and this goes back to personal branding, every agent, really was told to push themselves forward. And in some ways, I agree with this, to figure out, what you're about and what your brand is at a very surface level, right? Almost a cartoonish level. What really doesn't happen nearly enough, and if this is flipping the script, call it flipping the script. I call it, marketing 101, is to truly derive everything from the inner workings of your target customer's mind, right? So we have these sort of facile notions of, I need to project image X or Y, and luxury is the easiest one to do. That's a slam dunk, right? But I rarely see agents who manifest branding or marketing that reflects a reality that they have taken the time to understand in a sophisticated way the psychology, the emotional landscape of their target client. What do they fear? What do they love? What anxieties might they have around their real estate journey? What do they respond to and not respond to? And it simply doesn't get addressed. It's all one-way communication about, I did this, I did that, blah, 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 me, 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 me. When the rest of the world of marketing and advertising and branding does it completely the opposite way. Now, sure, there are agents that understand their target customers, but as a whole, the industry and the population of agents in particular just gets that backwards.
There's actually, it's funny you say that, because right now there's a report that just came out that 1 out of 2 millennial home buyers have been reduced to tears in the home buying process. And so if they see, hey, me, marketing, but yet they're in tears, 1 out of 2 of these millennial home buyers are literally crying about the process.
Yeah.
That's not going to connect.
No, it's not. And see, there's the opportunity, right? Sure, we could rattle it off. Prices are still high. Interest rates are now high. It's hard to buy a home these days. But how do you unpack that and speak to that person who is on the verge of tears trying to do something as important as buying a home, and speak to that in your marketing, in your advertising? How do you create a brand that reflects that person's interior dialogue? You're right. It seems almost academic or obvious, but you come across that very rarely in our world of real estate.
And you guys are going to do something here in March that is hopefully going to twist the minds and start to create new plays off of plays that have worked, but create new plays in 23 that speak to the mindset that's going on right now in the communities in which agents and brokers are serving. The event's called Turn On. I'm just so psyched that you guys are thinking about this event differently, because I've been to so many of these events. I know you just came off of a big one in New York, Brian, where you were speaking on the main stage, but there happens to be like this, what I call panel pontification, like just format that goes over and over and over again, where it's pontificating out as opposed to twisting and creating an energy where people are collaborating together. In your event that's coming up in March, which we're going to get into a couple of these details, because I think if you're anybody who wants to think differently about your business in 23, you need to find a way into the door. There's limited capacity. But when Marc reached out to me and he's like, hey, we want to do like a lobby that's not full of, business cards and, little towels that you can bring back and like these type of things. We want to actually have an interactive experience. And we're going to go Radio Row style with BAM, where we're actually getting reactions from the event. So even if you're not there, you'll be able to get some of these reactions. You're not going to get the whole thing. But when Marc pitched that to me, and Marc, pitch it back to me, because I think, the way you thought of it, it's something I've thought about for a long time. It's a way to disrupt what I call panel pontification events, which all start to blend in with each other. How much different is the experience going to be around Turn On in Portland in March?
Well, it'll be very different, but it's going to resonate because, like Brian said, if you're actually trying to build a brand, which is an important thing to do, you need to read the tea leaves and do things that are needed by the people you're doing it for. So something we've observed, because we've been in the industry since the late 90s, and we've gone to, between us, hundreds of events, and they're all great in their own right, but they all provide a very similar experience. So you go to one, it's like going to the other. They're all kind of the same. And you use the word twist, but what I have heard from many, many people is I go to these events and I come back and my brain is all twisted up with a million things I'm told to do, and I don't really understand any of it. I don't want to do most of it. That's the kind of twisting that happens at these events. What we sat down and thought about is like, what do people actually not like about events, and what would people actually want from an event? And that drove us to like step one. What about the moment you enter? And what is the lobby experience like? Because we all know we get to an event hall, we have to even find the door to get in. And then we're walking around aimlessly trying to figure out where to check in, how to check in, where we're supposed to go. What room do I want to be in? There's 5 sessions going on at 1 o'clock. Which one do I pick? It's a lot of twisting and confusion. We just want to create something that's really simple and easy and right by the people that are coming. So the lobby should be fun and experiential and interactive. So without spilling too much of it, our lobby is going to be very simple. You walk in and there's a check-in booth right there. I'm going to be there. Our staff is going to be there, not hired help. Everybody that we work with, everybody who we know is going to be all together handing out badges and cards and gifts. There'll be games to play with fellow attendees to get to know people. How many times do you go to an event by yourself and you have to go to the corner and just keep scrolling your phone until something refreshes that can give you an activity because you don't know what to do with yourself? And then I said to you, and I think I might have even said this to Brian 20 years ago, there should be a live 24/7 news feed in real estate. There's so much activity going on all the time. Why do we wait for a headline 3 or 4 hours after the news actually happens? Could there not be a real-time broadcast, like a cable network TV show for regular, or news show for regular news? And then you guys, when Tom introduced me to you and what you were telling me about where you're taking BAM, where you and Eric are going, I'm like, this is right up our alley. We like that. Real-time stuff. So I said to you, hey, why don't you come set up a news desk and broadcast live from the event? I think people would enjoy actually watching a live newscast take place. So we're going to put chairs out in front of your news desk so people can sit and be a little bit of an audience. But then I thought, our audience is made up of all these incredible special people. Could you not interview any one of them and create great content? I know this for a fact. So many people go to an event to hear other people speak, but they themselves have something to say and they don't have a forum for that. So why don't we give them that opportunity? So like through you, we can make that happen.
Yeah, and all of the BAM shows that would normally take place that day, they're going to be happening right from the event.
We love
some
that.
live stream action going on in the event. And then we're going to create an entire season. If you enjoyed the podcast that Marc and I did last year, we're going to have a whole season of those podcasts. I'm going to get to go pretty deep with Brian because I've got a whole bunch of stuff I want to pick his brain about, and some of the other speakers and some of the other attendees. There's going to be reactions to what people just heard walking out of their favorite talk at Turn On, right? So it's one thing to hear a talk, and then it's another thing to go and get an instant debrief that's documented and that can be shared with the entire community, with people that don't get in the door. Because I mean, I was like, holy, like there's just not a lot of seats. And I know we're running out, and we've got an offer for everybody that is ridiculous. Cause you sent me the BAM 23 discount code.
Yes.
And I punched it into the website, and I was like, whoa, this is an over 50% discount, only because you're like, hey, get a dozen or so people that are really passionate in your community in BAM over here so they can experience what we're doing. So this is like a true gift that Marc and Brian have given to the BAM community. BAM 23 is the discount code to go to Turn On. It's $750 off the ticket. It's ridiculous what they're doing to share with you guys.
Too much.
I think I'm like, I actually punched it in. I was like, this has got to be a mistake, but the numbers popped up and it was accurate. So I don't think you could take it back now.
No,
Brian,
you know what,
Brian,
Brian?
are you?
No.
Brian, was $750 off?
No, it's still good, Byron. Still good.
Of course, it's still good. No, I'm only kidding.
Yeah, Marc's not going to yank it back.
No, I would never do that. I'm kidding. Yeah. The other thing that I got from, because I watch all your content, I actually am a fan. You're doing what we're doing. You're kind of questioning status quos, and you're questioning things that don't make sense anymore. And you're helping people we can't reach think along the same lines that we're trying to get people to think, which is like, this industry needs a lot more new ideas. Like Brian said, there's just so much replication that it actually gives the industry kind of a bad stereotype out in the public because of that. But there's so many unique people in this industry who are not being given or the freedom or the liberation from status quo to go do their own thing. So your audience is kind of wired to our audience. And if we could match our tribes and put our peoples together, it's a good thing.
So Bobby, who's the lead producer of BAM, he's in the back room here on the stream. He's going to be out there, and we're just chatting about like ways to make this all the content that we're going to be producing and streaming out so people can get some reactions. But for the attendees that are there to be able to grab a little bit of content, Bobby, you can jump in if you want. People know who Bobby is at this point. For them to be able to get an Instagram reel in live time.
Yeah.
Right there at the desk with BAM. So if they've got a great, sound bite that they just heard, because what you said earlier, Marc, you walk away from this event, your brain's all confused. How about documenting some of what you just learned while it's fresh?
Yeah.
Not only so it can live on for others, but so that you can use it going forward in your business. So Bobby, you're going to be busy. You're going to be very busy.
Yeah. When Byron told me the scope of what we're planning on doing in March, I'm stoked on it. I can't wait to put it together. I think it's going to be a great event for everybody.
This is going to be a complete
We've given our speakers, and some of the speakers are people know, like Tom Ferry or Jimmy Mackin, but they've all been given special instructions, which is to not give your normal talk and not do your normal shtick. Mm-hmm. Don't sell coaching. Don't sell marketing. We don't want the top 5 takeaways on how to do this and the top 10 ways you can master your blah, blah, blah. we're going after a completely different line of storytelling and sharing. We want our speakers to be vulnerable and talk about their fears, their hardships, the thing they've overcome. Talk about the one big idea that has made you successful. Because what we want our audience to realize is, like, through those stories, they're tapping into everybody's own stories. Like, we all have those inside of ourselves. And sometimes we just don't feel like we're allowed to pursue that. And that's what this is. Turn on, like, turn on to your own inner want, your own inner voice. And so we have people from real estate who are going to not talk real estate, and people from way outside real estate that are going to bring a whole nother way of looking at the world in. And I think capturing those people's immediate thoughts coming out the door is great for them, because I can't tell you how many emails that I've gotten from the last two events, and they're all the same. And they all read, "My brain's on fire. I've got 1,000 ideas since I left your show." And, like, if you can capture them in that real-time moment, would be a great gift for them and for everybody.
And Bobby's responsible to airdrop you clips that you can share right at the event. So listen, before you make a decision to join us at Turn On, there's a link below where you can see the speakers. It is a diverse set of speakers and thoughts. It's a grouping that I've never seen, because sometimes you do go to events and it's like, okay, same. This is very different.
Oh yeah.
We just got a confirmation on a speaker just this afternoon. Marc told me that we can't share yet, but it suffices to say that a speaker like this has never appeared at any real estate event anywhere ever. And when I heard that, I was thrilled, because I've been saying 2023 is one of those years when there's never been a time for something different, a better time for something different. And that's the intention behind all of this. Is you started it out perfectly, Byron. It is time for new things, for things that break away from old patterns. Because look, necessity is the mother of invention, and we're feeling a whole lot of necessity over these last few months, right? Things got tough and weird, so it's time to try something different.
It's also the best time, and with my word before I heard Turn On, it's the best time to lock in, but it's ultimately the best time to turn on. So join us in Portland. Bobby's driving the content war. We talk about the content warship at BAM. We have this theoretical, imaginary warship that we're going to drive into Portland, a content machine, and we can't wait to create with all of you guys and collaborate.
I'm so excited.
With everybody.
Yeah,
I really am. Yeah,
we are too. And so hit the link below. There's a link that describes the event, and there's also one that brings you right into the BAM 23 discount code. If you end up signing up through the official site, use the code BAM23. There's limited spots. It's $750 off. It's an incredible deal. Hope to see you guys all in Portland. Thanks, guys, for spending a little time now.
Thank you, guys. It's been a pleasure.